Picture this. Guy sits at his table late one Saturday night. Only the overhead light is on in the kitchen. One hand, he's got a picture. In the other hand, he's got a tumbler full of room temperature Kentucky Gentleman. He stares at the picture, dwells and reminisces about an old love. Every so often he takes a sip. It's been 15 years since he's been with her. She's got 3 kids and he just can't seem to quit her. This is DJ Durkin. This is his 3-man front and his 2 high safeties. The guy does not know how to quit it. I'm going to jump into all that and more. Your Ags go down 48-33 to the Miami Hurricanes. The storm has come to our shore. They are glad to let us know that. And there's not a lot of good to come from this, y'all. We've got to flesh this out. And I'm going to hit you with a lot of bad and a lot of angles that you might not have even thought about. But that's why I've got this channel in part. This helps me to therapeutically deal with it and hopefully cause some change because I'm not tied to anybody. I get to speak my mind on here. People can like it or not, it doesn't matter. The point is that if it's able to be done that way, then there can be some change that amounts from that. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about the good first. 25 first downs to their 16. It's an odd stat to have one in because we lost so badly. And particularly, we had quite a few short fields. We won the time of possession, not by much, but I think we possessed it just over 32 minutes out of the game. And we had a pretty good third down efficiency rating. We were 8 of 18. Now, that's where the stats stop. Can't really find much more than that. The good to go along with it, though, is that Weigman performed well. He did not perform Tyler Van Dyke, but he did a good job considering what he was up against. And I'll give him props. Connor is still him. One interception was not his fault, of course, in particular. That slip by Nia Smith was just, it's just difficult. It's just difficult to see at this time. So that kind of jumps into the bad, though. We got out-schemed, y'all. Out-schemed all night long. We didn't have an answer for the pass rush. We didn't have, and we didn't commit to running the ball in large part. We only ran for 97 yards, which was more than them. They ran for 77. This was a throwing game for sure. But we did have 25 attempts, only managed 3.3 yards per carry. That's not what we need. That's not what we need when we can't handle the pass rush. I don't have a problem with the O-line. I actually thought they were a highlight to a degree. But you have to kind of take it in context. If they were going to blitz 6 or 7, then you would say, what's happening in the offensive line? Look, it's 7 on 5. What do you want? That's kind of my mantra. Not you, but in general, we're being outgunned here. They're sending pressure from a lot of different angles, not from traditional spots. That's something that's going to be difficult for anyone to deal with. That's my point. We didn't scheme out of that. We didn't throw many screens. I thought that play calling could have been a lot better to manage that situation. But it is where it is. That's not my biggest gripe on the day. That's not the ugly. We're just still in the bad, y'all. Turnovers, bad. Bad deal, 3 turnovers. My keys to the game were winning the turnover battle, keeping a clean pocket. And if we did those 2 things, I thought we were going to be lights out. And we really did neither one of them. Lost the turnover battle, struggled to have clean pockets all night long because we didn't know what to do with the blitz. We didn't have a good answer. We also couldn't get a pass rush. We tackled poorly. And we gave up 12.5 yards per catch. That is a monster number. Last week I told you Connor did 10.3. Today they did 12.5 on us. That can't happen. That can't happen, especially not if we're running 2 high safeties. How does that happen? Well, I've got my theories and I've got my thoughts. You got to give a lot of props to Miami here. Miami, if you're still watching and you're hearing me talk about all the bad that we've done so far, a large part of that was done because of the way that y'all schemed us. Y'all looked like you played with your back against the wall, like this was your last rodeo, like you had nothing to lose. We did not play like that. It didn't look like we had prepared like that. missing tackles, not being in the right spot, just the the sheer, I would say, commitment that I could get through the screen from the Hurricanes was something that I was envious of. And I need to see that. At one point, DJ Durkin was getting mad and yelling at somebody. I'm sitting here thinking to myself, this is too little too late. You should have had this 2 months ago. This scheme is a problem. This is actually getting into my ugly side. I don't know how else to explain this, but if you watch Big 12 football, in large part, what you're going to see is a lot of cushion. You're going to see a lot of safeties. And when you are coming from that far back, you have to react on time. You have to react quick because you got to get to the ball quick. The reason why you need to do that is because when you get to the ball, you need to break down. You don't want to be coming in trying to tackle somebody full speed. When you try to wrap up like that, it's not as easy. It's just not as easy. That schematically is going to make it more difficult for us to tackle. We're constantly coming from 10 yards away to either enter the box or make an open field tackle and tackle in space. That is not conducive to being good at tackling. It's not. And it has its drawbacks and it has its give and its take. If you want to play press, then what you are giving up is the possible back end throws. Okay, fine. But if we're running two high safeties, why not do that? Why not do something like that? We're not affecting the wide receivers in their routes. We're not pressing them, and we're not staying on them in that way, and we're not staying close. When you're that much closer, you can get wrapped up much easier. That's just one of the little small things that's just so bad about this. You know, we did have one sack last night off of the three-man front, but in large part, even when we were running the four-man front, we're not causing chaos. His philosophy has not been to create any imbalance on the opposing offensive line. When we did, I don't know if you noticed this, on a lot of times we would bring the pressure from the backside, so he was still moving towards his throwing side. We did it, I think, once, and we got a much better result. It's like, you know, these are just things that make so much more sense if you give it the time of day. So while we were doing some of the things that we were doing, I just could not even begin to tell you. Jimbo is part of my ugly. It's not quite for the reason I think most people think. I'm not so much on his X's and O's kind of situation. He's a head coach. He's supposed to be facilitating a lot of stuff. It's not supposed to be necessarily him drawing up the plays. We've wondered whether or not he is dabbling in that. Of course, he's been doing play calls, and so that kind of worries me. Do you remember 2 years ago? I think it was for the national championship game. They had us on, meaning the coaches, I think after we won the Orange Bowl, and him and the staff were making comments on the extra ESPN commercial. And he was really just giving a lot of the comments that were going on and shaping the conversation a lot. It kind of gave me a weird, odd feeling that that the room wasn't allowed to speak as much and flex their ideas that they had. Where am I going with this? I wonder how much control Durkin has. I do, because I've seen what we've done with the offense. How much of this is Jimbo's doing and how much of this is Durkin's philosophy? I've laid a lot at Durkin's feet. I think rightfully so. I think he should have to answer for this. But Jimbo has either one, because it's his responsibility, he has got to either be a better voice in that scheme creation, or he's got to get out of the way. And if he's going to get out of the way, then he's got to be ready to hold him accountable. We've been watching this for just over a year now. Technically, we call this in our second year of the Durkin era. It's not working. We had a fantastic pass D last year, right? But at the cost of the rush D. So far, we have a pretty good rush D, and it's at a huge cost of the pass D. I mean, we've got to have a semblance of a defense reasonably done in both areas. This has kind of been our thing. We are not decent at any of the situations. And so we get completely exploited the entire way through. And that's what happened. We really got hosed. But this goes back to my review of the New Mexico game, right? And so what I've been trying to do with you all is really give you a balanced take and recognize the things that are good and the things that are a problem, and or kind of foreshadow that. When they scored 10 points, I don't know if you remember me saying this, but I thought that was a problem. I had predicted 52-3. So our 52 rendered out. I think we had a pretty good offensive showing. I thought it could have still been better. I think they probably limited us, but I think if we had had a lesser offense, it would have been even worse, y'all. It would have been even worse. I think we would have been settling for quite a few more field goals and wouldn't even have the opportunity for a score at the end. But from the defensive side of things, New Mexico scoring that touchdown is problematic. And I kind of said it tells me that there's something below the surface that's an issue. And sure enough, here we are. It's reared its head. Now that we played, we can kind of tell a little bit more what that was, right? That was tackling. It was just simply knowing where to be. And again, that scheme that Durkin's running is just it's not going to be conducive to having, in my opinion, an effective defense. So we're going to have to probably deal with that all season. I don't think it's something that you likely are going to change in 1 week. It can be, but here's the thing. Have we not been practicing this like for, almost 2 months now? Well, sure, we have. We've been practicing this for 2 months. So what are we going to do? We're going to change it now and start doing something else? Has Durkin been practicing disguising blitzes? Has that been a focus of our defense? Is Jimbo allowing him to do that? Is he mandating that he do it? Is this even part of our philosophy? I just don't know. I just don't know. It doesn't feel like it is because we're at this point. So, what are we supposed to take away from that? We're just going to all of a sudden start implementing these things and start doing them. I don't see that happening, y'all. So I want to be upfront with you that, yes, we can make some changes, but do you feel confident that Durkin will make those changes? Do you feel confident that he'll find the schemes that will work? I mean, we've got the most talented defensive line, 2 deep, maybe in the nation, and we're not getting a pass rush. Why is that? Did we recruit wrong? Are we coaching wrong? Are we scheming wrong? I don't think everybody had the talent projection messed up. Do you? No one's really spoken up on that issue. So either we're not coaching them up, which I also have a problem with that too. I don't quite see that. Or we're not playing to benefit our players' strengths. And I think that's 100% what we're doing. What do we need the second safety for? Meanwhile, did you feel like we were cramped when we were on offense? Like their defense was just on top of us the entire time? Did you feel like that whenever our defense was out there? It felt like they had all the space in the world. Jimbo is there to create a culture and to hold people accountable. He is there to set the tone. I want to know what questions are being asked. And I listened to the presser. I was not impressed. Some X's and O's and some situational questions. Who's asking if he understands what's on the line? Does Jimbo understand what's on the line? Why aren't the I've only heard Olin Buchanan ask these questions. Not everybody's at these places, but honestly, where are the Aggie outlets at on these? I told you I was going to give you some ugly that you might not have been accustomed to. Because who holds the coaches accountable? Who holds the university accountable? Who holds Bjork and Sharp accountable? Who holds the boosters accountable? You get into this messiness that's going on here. The media, in large part, is supposed to be done this because this is kind of from a political side of things. Who's asking the questions about, Jimbo, do you understand what's on the line? Does he understand what's on the line? Do we all understand what's on the line? His legacy, does he understand his legacy is on the line? Does he understand that he has won one national championship and at this point everybody thinks it's a fluke? That's what people think. They think he got one good quarterback and had some decent talent around him and made it happen, and it was nothing to do with him. Is there any way to argue against that at this point? Go ahead. Somebody try me. I don't think there's a way to do that. I don't think. Does Durkin understand what's going on? Does he understand what's at stake? You got to step into the Aggie shoe to understand this. Can they do that? Do they understand what we've been after? When they practice, is that what it's about? Is it about hitting that standard that's going to take to get there? Or are we just allowing things to happen that aren't going to be conducive to winning? What's our mindset? When you watched those plays yesterday and we were needing a yard, did you see and did you feel the mindset coming through? I keep hearing in the pressers, we got to battle for every inch. It didn't feel like we were battling for every inch. I think our guys played hard. I think that's in them and I think that's in their heart. I think they have bought into that part and they have been coached that way to do that. But it still gave off a funky aura. Sorry, got to call it like it is. There are some players on social media saying, hey, let's not point the finger. I despise, as a matter of fact, that sort of idea. But I think I get what people are saying is, point at yourself kind of thing, like make sure that you're doing your part. Here's my issue is that if you can't point the finger and you can't say this was broken, that was broken, how are you going to fix it? You see the problem with that whole mindset? The issue ends up being ownership and then action that follows it. You should be able to point the finger, and then whoever the issue is should be then taking ownership, and they should then do that to the point of then acting on it. So whenever you continue to whiff on tackles, Damani, and whenever you continue to not be in good coverage, is this being practiced? Is this being phased out of the game? When DeBerry misses tackles, or so on and so forth, or when Cooper goes up and doesn't wrap up, are we going to continue on do this? Or are we going to take ownership of that mistake? I'm not mad at the person. I'm mad at essentially the behavior. You have to take ownership of the behavior and do something different. I've had lots of criticism on this channel, and I have never once hit any backlash to anybody for that. I say, got it. If you're monotone, okay, well then I try and do something different. I'm not saying I've gotten it done every single time, but I think anybody watching this channel has been able to say, oh, this guy has done some growing. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we're just doomed to continue on with the same old, same old. It'd be an awful place to be. This next week, we have got to go out and we have got to basically pull out all the stops. Miami looked like, huge props to them, like they had pulled out all the stops. We need to do the same. We need to play like we got nothing to lose, like we've been kicked in the dirt. I thought that was what we all knew was the case and that we were all being doubted. It does not feel like it, but that's the way it needs to be. See you back tomorrow. I'll give you the Louisiana Monroe preview, and then we'll go see if this team can get back on track. Thanks and gig 'em.